Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven, and this is the Storytime channel. Today we have some entitled parent stories, and our first story of the day is by Mosey is My Boy, entitled Mom Tries to Steal My Bike. Okay, so some context before we start. I have a condition called growth hormone deficiency, which isn't a serious condition. All it is that my pituitary gland doesn't produce enough hormones, which makes me short and underweight. Important later. So one day, me and my brother, we'll call him Paul, and my friend, we'll call him Jason, were at the park one day after school. This was about a year and a half ago. The park we liked to hang out at was right by the elementary school, and they were just getting out when we got there. So anyways, me and my brother brought our bikes down to the park because it had a large basketball court that no one really used, so we rode the bikes on that. Then, entitled mother in her late 30s came over with her baby and young child, entitled kid. So we are just minding our own business when entitled kid takes out a small basketball and starts playing on the court. We didn't mind and we went to the other side to continue what we were doing. About 5 minutes later, the entitled kid came over and asked if he could ride my bike. I was in 8th grade at the time, but because of my condition, I looked like I was in the 5th. He was probably in 2nd grade and was pretty small. He came over and asked if he could ride my bike for a few minutes. This was a really nice bike that sent my parents about $400, so I wasn't just going to hand it over to him. This is what happened. The entitled mother says, "Just let him ride the bike for a few minutes." I say, "No ma'am, he could fall and hurt himself, he's too small." "I don't care, you're in a public space, so you should let my kid ride your bike." I say, "No, I can't, he could." "Let him ride the bike." Then she yanks the bike from my hands and it falls to the ground. She picked it up and gave it to her son, and blocking me from trying to take it back, saying, "If you touch me, I'll call the police for assault." Then, crash. Entitled kid ran into the basketball pole because he was too small and could barely steer and reach the pedals. He was crying and the chain got stuck on itself. He was bleeding a little, only from a scratch in the pavement. "You broke my bike, that cost $400. "I'm calling the police for child endangerment." "Then I'm calling the police for destruction of property and assault." I didn't mention it, but when she yanked the bike away, she grabbed my arm and elbowed me. After she heard that, she ran off with her son and baby. We stopped going to that park after school, which was a bummer. Thankfully, OP clarified that it wasn't an expensive fix at all, it was just getting the chain back on the loop. But my question is, if you were out riding your bikes and there was a kid that wanted to ride your bike, is there ever a situation where you would just let them ride on your bike? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Let Me Die Please Mom, entitled Mother Thinks She Has a Say in What Menstrual Products I Use. I got my first period when I was 12 to 13. Since then, I've only used pads because that's what my mom used. Lately though, around last year, I started researching about other menstrual products like cups, tampons, etc. and wanted to try on cups. I've heard they're easy to use and good for the environment. I didn't know how to introduce this topic to my mother because, although my parents are pretty cool and open-minded, I didn't think they were gonna be okay with me sticking something up there. Asian family, enough said. Surprisingly though, last week when I hinted at this, my mother was completely supportive. In fact, she had done her own research on this and was gonna suggest it. I was thrilled and we decided we would do a little more research on this before buying the best one. Now here is where I make a mistake. There is this kid in my building who happens to be a very good friend of mine. I tell her everything and I also told her about this. By the way, she is 21 and I was 19 when this incident took place. She wanted to know more about this and was even surprised to learn that there were more menstrual products in this world than pads. She mentioned how she wanted to try it as well. We left the conversation at that. This Saturday, her mom came over for tea. Both moms were in the kitchen talking about whatever moms talk about while I was chilling in the living room. I could overhear their conversation. She decided to drop the bomb. I'm gonna refer to her as Karen going forward. Karen says, "Did you know that your daughter is thinking about using a menstrual cup?" My mom says, "She can hear you and yes, I did know. Why?" "You are okay with her inserting something up there? What about her virginity?" Facepalm. My mom says a cup is not going to take her virginity. A hymen is not a sign of virginity. You know that, right? It's going to destroy her hymen. You know no one would want to marry someone that has no hymen. My mom says she will only marry someone that's open-minded, so that's not a bother for us. I wouldn't let my son marry someone like that. My mom says good for you. Listen, I know what I'm doing. She's 19 and is capable of making her own decisions. I think you are a bad mother. You shouldn't give girls all this freedom. It's gonna come to bite you in the butt. What are people gonna say? Nothing I care about, I'm sure. Listen, I brought up my girls without your help. I do not need your advice now. You can parent your own kids, not mine. Fine, I was only being concerned for my friend. Thanks, but that's not needed here. Karen then walks out of the kitchen and comes to the living room, looks at me and says, You are going to be a disgrace to the family. Once you start enjoying the cup, you would want other things up there. Then she storms out of my home. Seriously? All this for a goddarn cup? My mom closes the door behind her and tells me to ignore her. My dad, who was just silently observing all this, told me she was still living in the medieval times. Thank God for my parents. Anyways, she still gives me dirty glances every time I'm out, and I'm assuming she told other ladies in my apartment because they're always whispering to each other whenever they see me or my family. The girl stopped talking to me, and I'm guessing it's because her mom forced her to. I don't really understand why they assume that somebody using a cup is not only something that removes the purity of a woman, but also is like a gateway drug as a pleasure device or something. Now, I'm not a lady, but I feel like I can be pretty sure that this Karen is wrong in a whole lot of ways. This next story is by Super Hulock 2005, entitled Mother Thinks the Food is Taking Too Long, so she makes us throw it out and comes back 5 minutes later because she changed her mind. I've been working in an ice cream shop each summer for 6 summers. When this happened, it was my 4th year. It was the beginning of the season, and I was also training a new employee, and because the store is small, we were usually there with 1 or 2 people. On this day, it was very busy, and most people were fine waiting, and we did our best to help people as fast as possible. Entitled Mother just thought we still weren't fast enough. Entitled Mother says to coworker, Excuse me, but I was next, not this person here. Coworker says, I'm sorry, I'll be with you in a minute. Nice customer says, You actually just walked in, there are more people waiting. At this time, I was already looking at Entitled Mother like she could be trouble, so I kept an eye on her and coworker. While she was ordering, I would like 2 scoops of Smurf and strawberry and a waffle. Coworker says, Okay, that'll be $5.20. It'll take a minute to prepare the waffle. At this point, Entitled Mother paid and started waiting patiently for about 20 seconds before crap hit the fan. I've been waiting forever for my waffle. What's going on here? Coworker says, Like I said, it takes a minute for it to be ready. It'll be done shortly. I say, Coworker, I'll take this, just help the rest of the people. Miss, like coworker told you, it takes a minute to get ready, but it's almost done. You can't make me wait this long. I have a child on her own outside. I can't leave her this long. If you want, you can wait outside. I'll bring it when it's done. So she goes outside with the ice cream, but comes back immediately. I want a refund for the waffle because it's taking too long and my kid is alone outside. I say, okay, but it's done now, so you could still take it. No, I don't want it anymore. I want my money back. Well, here it is, and have a nice day. You should treat the customers with more respect. Well, if you don't want anything, you should go because we have more customers waiting. Entitled Mother leaves and I go back to helping customers and giving coworker pointers again, when 5 minutes later, Entitled Mother walks back in. We also had to throw the waffle out because if you reheat it, it just tastes like crap and we can't sell it anymore. I changed my mind, I still want the waffle, but make it fast because my kid is outside. Okay, that'll be $2.50 and it takes a minute to be ready. You can't make me wait, what about the one you made earlier? I don't have time to wait for the food. We had to throw it out because you didn't want it, so I have to make a new one. Also, you can just wait outside and I'll bring it to you. Okay, but I want the number of your boss and your name so I can complain about you. Sure, I'll write it down for you. I gave her the number of the store itself, and my first name, and the waffle, and she went away. I never heard about it again from my boss, so I think it never came through. The other customers were pretty nice, saying we did a good job, which my coworker needed because Entitled Mother was pretty mean to us and she was still pretty insecure because she just started. You definitely gotta feel bad for that coworker, just kicking off the job, just getting into the flow of things and getting tossed right into the fire with the Entitled Mother. They'll never be able to forget the waffle saga on one of their first few days. And our final story of the day is by Scarlet Absol 13. Rich entitled aunt throws a tantrum, gets shut down by her teenage son. So I'm back with another entitled aunt story. However, this time the entitled aunt is my mother's sister and not my father's sister, the subject of my last entitled aunt stories. My mother's sister married a wealthy man about 20 some odd years ago. I'm not sure what my uncle does for a living, but he makes enough money to classify as a millionaire. He's a pretty cool, down-to-earth person who, despite his financial status, is a very humble and generous person. My aunt, on the other hand, believes she deserves everything she wants because she's a good, God-loving person who devotes her life to God and His teachings, so she deserves to be pampered. From the sound of it, she doesn't cook, so her family does takeout every night, she doesn't clean, so they have a housekeeper, and she doesn't drive. I have no idea how my uncle has managed to stay with my aunt as long as he has. So back in 2018, my aunt, uncle, and younger cousin visited the family for Christmas. A few days after Christmas, I went to Boston with my aunt, uncle, cousin, and grandfather as their tour guide. They wanted to go to a few high-end stores around the Prudential/Copley area, and I knew that area very well. After we had gone through all the high-end stores that I felt very out of place in, and my uncle dropped $1,500 on a purse for my aunt, we went to a popular cheesecake chain restaurant. The first thing I said when we sat at the table was, "I can pay for my own meal." And my uncle gave me a, "Nonsense, what kind of tourists would we be if we didn't give our personal tour guide some form of payment? We wouldn't have found this cool place if it weren't for you. We'll pay for your meal." I ended up ordering the cheapest thing I could find, a turkey club sandwich, and decided that I would forego the cheesecake. When dessert time came, I initially passed on a piece of cheesecake, but my aunt and uncle pressured me into ordering one once I admitted I had never had a piece from that restaurant. I offered to pay for my meal again once the check came back, and once again, my uncle refused to let me. This is important. Fast forward a few days, my aunt and the rest of the family got into a bit of an argument about the dinner plans for that night. I don't remember everything that was said. I was playing Mario Kart with my older cousin's 4 and 8-year-old daughters and my younger sister when this went down. I think she wanted to go to an expensive seafood restaurant, but the 4 and 8-year-olds refused to eat seafood, and my older cousin's wife is allergic, so everyone else was suggesting we go elsewhere. And it led to my aunt crying about, "I've done so much for all of you this week and you can't do something for me? We were kind and generous to pay for everyone every time we've gone to eat. No one else has offered to pay, so we've had to foot the whole bill every time." We basically went out to eat for breakfast and either lunch or dinner just about every day at my aunt's demand because she claimed that her 17-year-old son wouldn't eat home-cooked food. He wolfed down several pieces of the traditional French-Canadian meat pie my grandmother made for Christmas. My uncle wouldn't let anyone else help pay for the restaurant bills because he had more than enough money to pay for everyone and knew his wife's demands of going to restaurants as a family for every meal could be a financial strain on the rest of us. She cried something about the sacrifices she made in Boston, like settling for a $1,500 purse when she wanted a $2,500 purse and foregoing the matching wallet. Which was a lie. She wanted a $1,000 purse that the store didn't have in stock, so she settled for a $1,500 purse. And eventually said, "We were even nice enough to pay for OP's lunch when we went to Boston because she decided to spend $40 on a set of measuring cups and didn't have enough money left for lunch. And then she had to order a piece of cheesecake." Yes, I'll admit, I did spend $40 on a 6-piece measuring cup set, and before I could even start to defend myself, my 17-year-old cousin went, What are you talking about, Mom? OP offered to pay for her food like 4 times, and Dad told her not to worry about it. She got the cheapest thing on the menu and wasn't even going to get a piece of cheesecake, but you and Dad forced her to. Not to mention Uncle, my dad, has offered to pay for his family's meals every time we've gone out, but Dad's never let him. Dad doesn't mind paying for everyone, so I don't know why you do. My aunt quieted down after that and reluctantly agreed to go somewhere else for dinner. I don't have many stories about her because she lives in a different part of the country and will go months, if not years, without talking to the rest of the family for no reason, so I rarely interact with her. It's very clear that the uncle spoils the aunt here. They're just so used to getting their way. They're probably very used to coming up with mental gymnastic type excuses as to why they deserve something, and then I'm sure the uncle probably just gives into it anyways. Going into this, I thought this was going to be a story about how OP had to demand that they pay for their own meals or something, but it actually very quickly turned to the aunt trying to extort OP when OP didn't even want people to pay for them in the first place. The uncle seems awesome and incredibly nice, and they deserve better than that aunt. Sorry, not sorry. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.